Girl House, excellent. Charlie's Farm, another really superb slasher film. Headless, definitely one of my favorites of the year. Now what do we got here? Lost After Dark. Gotta pop this in and check it out. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 31 Days of Horror. I'm your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yeah, brand new series, and it is the 31 Days of Horror. Now, if you're not familiar with the 31 Days of Horror is, it's basically where you watch and review a film for every single day of October leading up to Halloween. And yes, I've been asked to do this for the last like 3 years, whatever. And I have not been able to do it. I'm always really so busy in October. And this year I decided, well, even though I'm still busy as hell, that I'm going to attempt to do this 31 Days of Horror. So, yeah. Alright, so for day one, I got one here from Anchor Bay that I was really looking forward to watching. This is actually my second time watching it, so I'm kind of cheating. I said to myself that I was going to review 31 films I'd never seen before. But I thought this is a perfect film to kick off the whole month with. And yeah, so it's a brand new slasher film from 2015, and it's called Lost After Dark, courtesy of Anchor Bay. Yeah, I actually didn't really know a whole lot about this one, but upon looking into it, I found out that it's actually a Canadian slasher film shot in Sudbury, Ontario, which is really cool. So yeah, but getting into the premise or the plot of this one, it basically follows 8 main characters. Now, what they are doing is they're basically kind of skipping out on their spring ball. They basically all kind of lied to their parents, and they all told their parents that they're going to the spring ball and stuff and staying over at a friend's house. But what they're actually doing is they're skipping out. And by doing so, what they do is they all kind of meet up at the school and they steal the school bus. And what they're planning on doing is basically heading out to one of the characters' cabin's house to go and party and do their thing and stuff like that. But of course, on their way out there, the bus actually breaks down. It actually technically runs out of gas. Apparently the the gas gauge is broken. So they run out of gas on this dark, not abandoned road, but this dark, unfamiliar road. And so now they're kind of stranded. Anyways, they come across an old abandoned type house. They seek refuge in there. And of course they start getting picked off one by one by a mysterious cannibal killer. Yeah. So that's basically the premise of the film right there. Now, my thoughts on this one. Now, basically, with a premise like that, it's a very simple premise. But, when you really think about it, a lot of these type of films have very simple premises. It's whether they're executed the way they're supposed to be. Now, there's good execution, there's bad execution. You can have a real complex story, or you can have a real simple one. In this case, the simple premise and kind of build up works quite well. It's a very simple premise of the film. It's your very typical type setup, but it's executed very well in this one. First off, we'll get into the characters. Now, there's 8 main characters in this film, and I have to say, most of them are relatively likable, which is, not very typical of a slasher film, as we all know. It seems like many directors, they like to put, characters in a film that hate each other, they rip on each other, and ultimately the characters get super annoying, and it's hard to, root for them, or ultimately like any of the characters in a lot of slasher films. So you don't care if they die or live or whatever. In this film, it's not really the case. There's 8 characters. There's a little bit of, there's a couple characters that are, kind of jackasses at times, but mostly all these characters are very likable. For the first half of the film, it's kind of slow, but it's not really that slow. It's, it's a lot of character development. You get to know all of the characters almost individually, which is very cool, as, once they break down and they get to this house area. So that's very interesting, with all these likable characters and stuff, and, you start kind of rooting for them a little bit. Which brings me to the setting. Now, the actual setting of this film is fantastic, man. It's really it's a great location. They found this really awesome house. It's very dark. The whole film's really dark. So the cinematography is actually quite well done in this. It's very well lit. And yeah, it's just, they did a really good job filming this film. Like I said, it's shot in very, very dark territory. So cinematography, very well done. Which brings me to, the time that this film is also set in. It's set in the early 80s. And the one thing I like about this film is that, it lets you know that it's an 80s throwback slasher film, but it doesn't keep reminding you throughout the entire film. I know that was pointed out by another YouTuber, but I couldn't help but agree with it more. I really like that. A lot of these throwback type slasher films, they tend to keep throwing it in your face that it is an 80s, throwback slasher film. In this one, they don't really do it. There's a couple things in the beginning of the film that let you know what time the setting is in. And that's it. It just kind of goes from there. The look of the film is fantastic. Like I said, the cinematography and the actual locations are awesome. But I like how they've kind of put the natural film grain into there, or they put some film grain into it, and it really does kind of look like a natural kind of throwback film. Yeah, and especially in some of the scenes towards the latter part of the film, it's really well executed, actually. So the kills in the film, they're not bad. They're not like too extravagant. I think most of the effects in this film are practical, which is a bonus, but the kills are kind of, they're okay. They're nothing that great. I know there's one kill in this film that's, basically a Lucio Fulci shout out right there. Very cool to see, but the kills are tame, but done well. You don't need anything too extravagant. You still make it entertaining and stuff, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, the overall film as a whole, it's pretty well done. I don't really have a lot of negative points on this one. The soundtrack is really good too. Like I said, in the beginning of the film, lets you know by playing some 80s tunes on a Ghetto Bastard. The soundtrack's quite cool, but the score is pretty well executed in the film too. I find at times the cues in the score are fantastic in this film. So that was really kind of a plus. And everyone knows that watches my reviews and stuff, I'm a really big fan of musical scores and how they're executed and the way they're used in films. And this one, I thought they did a really good job with the music. I thought it was good. So, and I will add another thing about this film that was pretty well done in my opinion is the execution of the way the characters are killed. And what I mean by that, I mean the order of the characters' deaths. Sometimes when you watch these, old 80s slashers or slasher films in general, you can basically pick out who is going to die first, who's going to die last, things like who's your final girl is going to be. This one was a surprise. This one was actually a surprise, and that was another kind of element to the film that really made me like this one. There was just the likable characters, the musical score, the setting, the look of the film, and the structure of the film. It's got a very simple premise, but it's executed the way a slasher film should be executed, and it's very enjoyable. Which leads me into the last thing, which I'll talk about, which is the killer. A little disappointing. I will say the killer does kind of remind me... Actually, you know what? I'm not going to even say anything about the killer unless he's being shown on there. I'm not sure. But I will say that the killer isn't masked, which, I'm not really a huge fan of. I've always stated in the past that I love masked killers, and I think that's just... for a throwback film, I think having a mask would be the ultimate thing. But, when it's all said and done, it's still pretty entertaining and pretty awesome. And I really do like the ending to the film, to be honest, also. So, yeah, not really a whole lot of negative things about this one. The high school vice principal in this film was played by Robert Patrick, and I think he does a great job. Robert Patrick is he's great in everything and stuff like that. And, yeah, his acting was just fantastic, which I will say... pretty much the acting in the film was pretty above average, I have to say. I kind of read one review on this film briefly. I just kind of scanned through it, and it said the acting was atrocious, and I really just have to disagree with that completely, because the acting wasn't bad. I think the acting was perfect for the type of characters that they were playing, and it wasn't really that bad. So I can't say that the acting was that bad at all. So, with that said, a very enjoyable type film. Not really a lot of comedy in here. There was a couple unintentional laughs that I had, but yeah, fun film. Had to rate this one. I'm going to give this one about a 7.5 out of 10. It's nothing mind-blowing. It's nothing bad at all, but it's just another really solid slasher film from 2015. There's been a few this year, so definitely run out, check this one out. It's fantastic. I don't think you'll be disappointed, especially if you're a big slasher fan like I am. So, Lost After Dark, give it a shot. Awesome stuff. That's going to do it for day one, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with day 2 of the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616. Check you later. Peace out, homies.
Oh man, I love me some slasher films.